Hey guys, and welcome back to Stormy Stories podcast. I'm so glad you're continuing to tune in, or if you're a first timer, welcome. I wanted to address the elephant in the room. If anybody Googled me, my married last name for the last 10 years has been Obang. Veronica with a K, Obang. If you Google that name, you'll see that I did reality TV with my now estranged husband. Yeah, that's right. The show premiered on E Networks back in 2017, ran for a season, and then I decided not to come back. And you'd see in that show that I was ready to file for divorce. So why on earth would I still not be divorced in 2024? So that's the elephant I'm addressing in the room today. Grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and let's settle in. I hope you see yourself in this story, and if you don't, be glad it's not you. So, like I was saying, I filed for divorce years ago. And you might be saying, why are you still married? Are you fighting over money? Are you just insanely difficult? The court systems in Los Angeles Superior Court, where I live and where my hopefully soon-to-be ex-husband live, quite honestly are apathetic and let people that they deem to have money fight endlessly. I left E Networks and I left the show, Second Wives Club, and thought, okay, where am I now? I have 5 kids, I'm filing for divorce. Let's just move forward. I sat in an attorney's office years ago and they said, kid, in 6 months, worst case scenario a year, you'll have your last name back and you can move on with your life. My kids were in diapers then. Now my kids are star athletes and honor students, and I'm still working to get a divorce. So let's unpack that. My ex-husband, and everything I say is allegedly because I don't want to be sued. Everything I say is with a grain of salt. The most important thing that anybody needs to know is that I have done everything that I can to get divorced. So what is that story? Why does it take almost a decade to get divorced? So at the beginning of the end, I should say, I was a woman living in a massive home in Bel Air. I had 5 children, my beautiful, wonderful children. Shout out to my daughter Milan. It's her birthday today. She's the one who made me a mother. But in those years, behind closed doors, if you do go and look at those episodes that are still all over the internet that anybody can find if they look, of Second Wives Club, I am the picture of a mother. I'm married. I have material possessions. I am working super hard for my family, making sure they have what they need, cultivating my social life, doing my best to be a good friend, and quite honestly, just wandering around Beverly Hills. But behind closed cameras, I was a woman that every single day dealt with a husband that was so unfaithful, and every word out of his mouth was more than likely a lie. So let's not be generic. Let's truly be vulnerable. The first time I caught my then husband, cheating on me, I was walking into the office for a day's work with 2 newborns at home, and he had left his phone on the counter. His phone was sitting there, and as I walked by with my briefcase and a busy schedule ahead of me, I picked up his phone, and it rang as I was taking it to him. And I looked at the text message that came in, and it said, massages tonight, midnight. I acted like I didn't see the message, and I gave him his phone. I went through my day. I left the office when it closed, and I went to take care of my children. And that night, like clockwork, at 11:30, he jumped up. My ex jumped up and said, I can't sleep. I'm going to go to the office and do some paperwork and work on some charts. It was 11:30. And all I could think was, yeah, right. So he left the house. I waited for a few minutes. And then I packed my kids up and drove to our office in Beverly Hills. The only cars on the street were a Rolls Royce, which was my ex's car, and a random BMW. I let myself into the building. I went up to the second floor. I went into the office. And that's when I saw a surgical OR turned into a hotel room with my ex being naked, and not one but two women in evening gowns with their breasts exposed, candles lit, music playing, and oils everywhere, literally start to scurry like roaches when you turn on the lights. I'm not proud to say it, but I literally began screaming. And I was wearing a diamond bracelet, maybe a 20-carat diamond bracelet at the time. And by the time that scuffle was finished, all of my diamonds were loose on the floor, and my ex had bit me in the cheek so bad the next day he had to give me stitches. I was holding my 1-year-old the entire time. The next day, when everything had calmed down, and I was like, so what was that? He basically told me what I saw wasn't real, that I was overreacting. And most wise women will go, okay, you've seen enough. What are you doing? But if you've ever been with a narcissist, you know that next you get love bombed. When they're caught, you get love bombed, if not blamed. So I got a combination of the two. So I got a Cartier bracelet. Then I got a brand new gorgeous Birkin. I took a really quick trip to Paris to unwind and to relax. And when I came home, the messaging was basically like, why are you still crying? That was 2 weeks ago. And then it happened again and again. And I could sit and describe the scenarios for you, how I caught him, when I caught him. But honestly, he just didn't care when he got caught. But then I caught him stealing money from our charities. And then I would catch him with girls of very questionable ages, barely legal. And he had hired them and were paying them tens of thousands of dollars to do projects for him for social media marketing. And I really just started to feel disgusting that I was a part of something. It wasn't even dysfunctional. It was amoral. Because at a certain point, much like Diddy, who has his ass sitting in prison right now, nobody would speak up when they saw what was happening for years. That's who I was starting to become. I was somebody who didn't speak up about what they saw for years. And even if I spoke up and nobody believed me, what I could do was leave. So that's what I finally did after years and years of cheating. Even with the reality TV show filming in the background with me smiling, cooking, taking trips, matching my outfit perfectly to my nails, and my children having the best of the best and giving them everything you could give to a child, I knew it was rotten on the inside. There was a day that I came home, and this was the end. One of the women that he had been sleeping with, I won't say her last name, but her first name was Ruth, a Nigerian girl. He had done her nose job. I think he'd done her breast augmentation. And they had this whole charade that took me a while to discover, where she would come in as a patient. She handed me the cash for her nose job, like $15,000, $16,000 cash. And unbeknownst to me, when I'd go home, he handed her the money back and they laughed. But when it came to my attention that Ruth was his newest mistress, actually, Ruth called me. Ruth made an Instagram page and put all of their pornographic videos, pictures, all of their trips all over the world, all of the time she was playing in my closets and with my jewelry or wearing my wedding ring because I was visiting my sick granny or off to a parent-teacher conference, and she'd sneak in my house for an hour for them to have a roll about in the bed. She sent it all to me, and then she tagged my friends and my family. and our colleagues and our nurses and the other doctors that worked with us on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't put my head in the sand anymore because Ruth told everybody the things I probably knew but I didn't want to acknowledge because I didn't know how to deal with it. And as much time as I spent angry with Ruth, racing up and down my street, blaring her horn and revving her engine because she was so angry of a promise that he would leave her or leave me and be with her, I really had to sit and be quiet for a second. Ruth was not ruining my marriage. Ruth was not destroying my life. Ruth might have been a filthy, ugly, nasty, low-tier side chick, but she is what God sent to save me because she was so low quality. There's no way that I could find another justification to stay for one more day. It wasn't about him giving her our money. It wasn't about him fucking her when he wouldn't touch me. It wasn't about the lies and all the times he disappeared. It was the comfort she took and the ease in which she told me my life was a lie that let me know my life had always been a lie. This man had always been trash. This man left me in a hospital giving birth because he told me I wasn't efficient giving birth to our third child. So he had to go to work. So I thank Ruth. And Ruth, you know who you are. You know who you are, Ruth. You called me a few years after I left him, crying, talking about you went to therapy and you're sorry and your therapist said that you need to have my forgiveness for you to move on. Well, let me be very clear, Ruth. You're a whore. I don't forgive you. I think your mother's a piece of shit for raising you. I think your father, who thought that maybe I did something to run my husband into your arms, is a piece of trash too. But ultimately, keep your legs closed to married man. From what I've heard in recent years, you're bald-headed. Your edges have fallen out and you've fallen on hard times, but that's what happens when you're not a good person. But let's stay focused, Ruth. I know that little red Mercedes. You thought it was so beautiful. That's the car that we wanted to give to our friend who had lost her husband, and it was the cheapest option to feel like we cared. And you were so proud of that car. But in reality, I'm proud of you for helping me to take a step forward away from a man that literally doesn't know how to be a good human, a good person, a good father, or a good husband. You were the jailer that had the keys in your pocket and you set me free. So for that, I thank you, even though you're shaped like SpongeBob. So moving on in this story. After the 15th or 16th time I was cheated on, and my ex-husband would come home and find a way to blame me, I filed for divorce. And even though he doesn't pay child support, he's a few $1 million behind in child and spousal support. I really want anybody listening to hear my words. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I understand that my job is to raise my children. Whether I have to do that alone or whether he helps. And a guy being a plastic surgeon who went to Harvard doesn't mean he'll help, even if you were married to him for years and years. Children will almost always be the sole responsibility of the mother. I've raised my daughter to believe and to understand if you have a baby, you have a baby. Sierra had a baby with Future. She got a baby. Russell took it over, but that's her baby. I had a baby and married a plastic surgeon. Those are my children. Because in a world that's so unfair, when you go into court systems, you need to understand. It is a cliche to say it's biased towards men because in reality, women suffer so deeply. That is precisely why this fall I will be speaking to the LA Commission of Family and Children Services, discussing my experience in LA Family Superior Court, where for years and years and years I have litigated endlessly and in a circle and pointlessly a war of attrition against a man who does not care about the children, who does not want custody of the children, who does not help take care of the children. Hell, he's in Africa right now. And I got 5 minutes notice that he won't be around for weeks. And to do everything myself. And he got angry that I had questions about when he'd return or what he would do to facilitate being their father in his absence. So when I take that seat and I speak on that panel for the commission, my goal is to simply enlighten people who think that life is fair, who think that the courts are fair, who think that if you have more money than some, the courts tend to be more fair. In actuality, the courts are a circular court that are built to make money, and they exploit families. They exploit children. They need cases for judges to justify sitting on a bench day in and day out. They need cases to hear. And quite honestly, if one or more parties is willing to be difficult, that case is labeled a high conflict divorce, but it takes one fool to make a mess of a family. It takes one fool. And it is very difficult from a distance to see who is the difficult person. So I will always, and I am currently fighting for my children's rights, for my children's future, for my children's now, while their father is an apathetic, unpresent deadbeat who owes millions in child support, has 3 other ex-wives, has never raised any of those other children, but the court doesn't look at that. If he wants to be involved today, by God, that's his right. Don't worry about that 20 and 20-something-year-old and teenager that he abandoned and never tried with. Let's give him a 15th chance to prove he's got what it takes. Well, quite honestly, my children are not petri dishes and they're not experiments. I've never failed. One of my favorite lines in movie history, Bruce Willis. And he said, that is the depth. My God, I will not fail. Armageddon. I live in Armageddon every day. Every day I wake up, and my motto is, I will not fail. The court doesn't care if the other side fails. In fact, they need them to, so they can bleed you dry. And if you're black or you're brown, oh, it's worse. So every Ruth in the world who's playing a game for a Chanel purse, and every deadbeat dad that thinks he's saving money, there is a mother somewhere saving the world. So wherever you are, however you're saving the world for your children, I see you. Don't fail today. Happy birthday to my choo-choo beans. Happy birthday to my ex-husband's son, who may not be my child, but it is also his birthday. I love you and I respect your mother more than anything. I'm glad to call her a friend. But I just wanted to make this while all these things were on my mind. I can't wait to meet with the commission on October 7th. Happy fall. Good luck to you, ladies. You're doing your best, and God sees you. Talk soon.